This is an extract from the Leader Coronavirus Daily podcast by the Evening Standard and hosted by me, David Marsland. To hear the whole thing, search for it on your podcast provider. If you pop over to my Twitter account at @DavidMarslandia, you'll see a photo of the great construction project my son and I have been working on during this lockdown. It's a paper mache pirate ship. It took us a week and we're very proud of it. What it's not is a grand work of art. There was an idea that the pandemic would lead to us all being hugely creative, or at least fix the dodgy step on our staircase, but no. The Office for National Statistics has been looking at what people have really been doing, and the Evening Standard's Naomi Ackerman has the cold, hard facts. Naomi, what has the top activity been?
So it turns out that people have mostly been doing what people feared people would end up doing, which is lying in front of the TV, becoming more and more couch potato-like with every day that lockdown continues.
I guess, to be fair, there was some great television out there. I mean, Tiger King came out just as this pandemic started. There were other TV shows that people could watch, but I think the point is that it's quite easy to sort of think about doing something constructive, but when it comes down to it, it's quite hard to get off the sofa once you're comfy, isn't it?
Completely. I also think there's something that is quite paralyzing about anxiety, and if people have been going through a lot at this time, whether it's worried about their job or worried about, their health of their family members or their kids or anything, that can be paralyzing, and actually just zoning out and completely numbing yourself by watching TV can probably feel like the best thing that you can do, rather than trying to be the next Tolstoy. Although Tolstoy would be a great thing to try and be.
And there's also been some interesting findings from the ONS about how households have been dividing up work, hasn't there?
I think commentators were raising this from the start, that basically they were worried that the fact that we were suddenly all at home would mean that men's jobs, who are often actually the higher earner within a couple anyway, would end up being prioritized, and that women would end up doing the majority of the household work and the childcare. And the new findings have shown that although men have done more during lockdown, so they've done 22 minutes more housework a day, that actually women are still doing at least an hour more each day. So they're doing 3 hours and 32 minutes on unpaid labour daily, compared to men 2 hours and 25 minutes.
That is a huge difference, isn't it? How has that happened?
I genuinely think it's because, and this is very gendered, because I live in a household where my partner is definitely way better than me at doing all forms of housework, and he tells me when to do stuff. But I think there is a very typical thing where people are just, the women might be the one that noticed that the kid hasn't done whatever, or that it's time to change the dishwasher, that cleaner stuff you put in the dishwasher, the sort of things that no one wants to think about. And I guess that's probably what happened. Plus, it emerged yesterday that women are more likely to have been furloughed, to have lost their jobs, which means that if you're the one not working, you're also probably the one that's now taking up the majority of household tasks. So I think it's probably a representation of a much bigger issue about women being sidelined at this time.
And it's interesting that that's been highlighted then. And so I wonder if that's another one of those things that when this lockdown does eventually pass, people will look at a little bit more. One of those things that could change.
I hope it's one of those things that change. What I think might change as a result is maybe a lot of men who maybe always went to the office, always were constantly just coming back being dad on a Friday night or a Saturday, might realise that actually it's hugely rewarding spending more time with their kids, and that maybe they might decide actually that that's a new way in which they want to live, that they don't want to not spend time doing housework, or that extra 20 minutes, that might be an average, but maybe a lot of men are actually doing way more than that. I think that could be a positive change, although that's definitely putting a spin on it. So
one thing I did notice was that a lot of people have been doing a lot of gardening, but I do wonder if that's because garden centres are one of the first places to open, rather than, I need to really finish that thing I did in the garden. It was more kind of, this is a thing I can actually do.
I think it's become a huge thing, especially among younger people. So I know that a lot of my friends in London are now planting gardens in the little, the bits, the little spaces in the street around where trees are. Maybe people have found it's a hugely calming task. And also, now that they're at home more, there's just more opportunity to try it. I read an interesting BBC report that was saying that the seed sales, of seeds for plants, for even growing your own food, were the highest they've been since the Depression. Even after World War II, we didn't see as big a rise in the number of seeds being bought.
So out of all this, we could have a beautiful London with a bit more gender equality.
That is the dream, although it does seem to be showing in the stats that actually we're going to end up with people who are slightly fatter, have watched a lot more TV, and who potentially filled with women slightly angry they've spent months locked at home doing more housework than their partners. So I think I think we have to be hopeful is the conclusion, I think.
Have you done one great creative thing, Naomi? I built a pirate ship. What have you done?
I learned how to make very good Nigella Lawson banana bread. She has the best recipe where you soak raisins in rum, like literally rum for several hours, and they soak up all the rum. And I've also, I started a podcast, so that was my thing.
Search for the Leader Coronavirus Daily on any podcast provider to hear more from the podcast.